I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office, led by Alvin Bragg, has just hired a top prosecutor, Matthew Colangelo, and Colangelo is being hired primarily to reignite the criminal investigations of Donald Trump from the Manhattan District Attorney's Office relating to Trump's fraudulent financial valuations and other financial crimes in the state of New York, and specifically in New York City. Matthew Colangelo was previously the third highest ranking official at the Department of Justice before taking this job. He was the Associate Attorney General under Merrick Garland, where he oversaw the Civil Division, the Civil Rights Division, and other major divisions within the Department of Justice. And before that, Colangelo worked at the New York AG's office, and before that worked on fair housing issues at the NAACP. Now, Colangelo's work at the New York Attorney General's office is very relevant to his new job now as the senior counsel for the Manhattan District Attorney. And specifically, Colangelo was the lead prosecutor. He was the lead investigator in the case which led to the dissolution of the Trump Charity and Trump Foundation, because that entity engaged in fraudulent conduct and misrepresentation. And Colangelo was also involved in a lot of challenges to Trump-related policies when Trump was still in office. Now, Colangelo was also at the New York Attorney General's office, but had left to work at the DOJ, where he was that third highest ranking official as the Associate Attorney General at the DOJ. But he was there for those years where the New York Attorney General prepared their civil action, which was filed in September against Donald Trump for the fraudulent valuations of his properties. And New York Attorney General Letitia James brought that lawsuit seeking at least $250 million to be disgorged from the Trump Organization and related entities and Donald Trump and his adult children for engaging in this decade-long fraudulent valuation scheme. So that lawsuit was brought in September, but over the past 2 months since that lawsuit was filed, the judge overseeing the case in New York, Judge Arthur Engoron, found that there was a probability of success on the merits for the New York Attorney General, that Trump and the Trump Organization and his adult children were engaged in continuing, ongoing, and systematic fraud. And that's why Judge Arthur Engoron granted the New York Attorney General's petition or injunction to bring on an independent monitor. That's Judge Barbara Jones, a retired federal judge who's now been implanted into the Trump Organization, if you will, to oversee their financial representations to third parties, including lenders and taxing authorities and insurers. So a great degree of success by the New York Attorney General's office thus far in their civil lawsuit that was filed against Donald Trump, with the work that was utilized there was the work that was being done by Matthew Colangelo. And now Matthew Colangelo is hired by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office to investigate similarly situated crimes as those that are at issue in the civil lawsuit brought by New York Attorney General Letitia James. So in the New York AG lawsuit, because it's civil, that just involves money damages and an injunction. That trial's set to be heard in October of 2023, early October, and I believe the trial's going to be held there and held at that time. I don't think there's going to be any other extensions. Trump wanted delay to drag that case out many, many years, but Judge Arthur Engoron ordered that trial to be held in October of 2023. But that's also the case where the special proceeding, which predates the filing of the lawsuit in September, Donald Trump pled the Fifth Amendment over 400 times. And in the civil case, unlike a criminal case, taking the Fifth Amendment can be used as an adverse inference against the party who pleads the Fifth. In essence, the jury or the judge can be told, look, the fact that Donald Trump pled the Fifth, he is trying to hide bad information, which would otherwise be disclosed if he didn't invoke his Fifth Amendment rights. And in addition, in the injunction motion that's already been brought before Judge Arthur Engoron, he said, look, in addition to Trump pleading the Fifth, you haven't put forward one iota of evidence at all to explain why the appraisals came in at X value, and then the actual valuations that Trump put in his statements of financial conditions were like 50 to 100 times X. And what the basis of it is, you haven't put forward any information, any evidence, any declaration, just literally nothing. And so that case goes to trial in October of 23. We also have the Manhattan District Attorney currently in another trial involving the Trump Organization, where the jury is currently deliberating. This involves the untoward and improper benefits to employees like Alan Weisselberg and other top Trump executives that were not reported to taxing authorities. There, the jury is deliberating, but that's a criminal case just brought against the Trump Organization. And so Matthew Colangelo has all this wealth of knowledge because he was involved in the New York Attorney General investigations of the unlawful conduct of the Trump charities and the Trump Foundation, and the unlawful conduct which led to the civil lawsuit brought by the New York AG, because that's the only authority the New York AG has there, is to file a civil lawsuit and not a criminal lawsuit. The criminal lawsuit that involves the same type of conduct would be filed by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. That has not been filed yet. But you'll recall within the past year, there were grand juries that were assembled to investigate Donald Trump's crimes, and Alvin Bragg let one of the grand juries lapse. And so many people thought that Alvin Bragg was not going to be pursuing any criminal charges against Donald Trump directly. But to his credit, Alvin Bragg said that's not the case. We are still looking into and investigating criminal charges. And this decision to bring on Matthew Colangelo is a very aggressive move in the direction signifying that Alvin Bragg intends to continue these criminal investigations of Donald Trump. You wouldn't bring in Colangelo if that wasn't what your aim is. And there's literally no one in the country who has a better set of institutional knowledge of the crimes at issue than Colangelo, because Colangelo worked shoulder to shoulder with New York Attorney General Letitia James to prepare the lawsuit that was ultimately filed in September, which at that time Colangelo was working at the Department of Justice. And Colangelo also has a history of working with Alvin Bragg. You may recall that before Alvin Bragg became the Manhattan District Attorney, he was the Chief Deputy Attorney General, and he worked within the Attorney General's office, where he and Colangelo were colleagues many years back, so they know each other through that. Let me read for you the statement that Alvin Bragg made about the hiring of Matthew Colangelo. Bragg explained, quote, Matthew Colangelo brings a wealth of economic justice experience combined with complex white-collar investigations, and he has the sound judgment and integrity needed to pursue justice against powerful people and institutions when they abuse power. It basically said everything other than using the word Trump, but obviously the coded message in there: complex white-collar investigations against powerful people and institutions when they abuse power. That is obviously talking about Trump. In a statement released by Merrick Garland about Matthew Colangelo, he explained how Garland relied on Colangelo's, quote, wise counsel and excellent judgment since Colangelo's first day in office and since Garland's first day in office with Colangelo. And so big news here out of the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, bringing on Colangelo. And so just to situate you here with the Department of Justice, you now have Jack Smith, the special counsel who's investigating Donald Trump's criminal conduct relating to the January 6th insurrection, relating to 2020 election interference, and relating to the theft of government records and the obstruction of the theft of those records. And then in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, we now have Matthew Colangelo as a senior counsel within the District Attorney's Office, now engaged in the criminal investigation of Donald Trump for fraudulent financial valuations of his properties, similar to what is being managed as a civil lawsuit by the New York Attorney General Letitia James, where that will go to trial in October of 2023. And then if we go further south to Georgia, in Fulton County, there we have the Fulton County District Attorney, Fani Willis, who is involved in a criminal investigation, as well as top Georgia kind of MAGA Republicans who were involved in the fake elector scheme there, people who were involved in election interference there, and Donald Trump and Trump's inner circle there. And then we had the January 6th committee, which is not, it doesn't have the power to criminally prosecute, but can make recommendations and referrals, and that's taking place within the January 6th committee. Now, I haven't even talked about all the other civil lawsuits that are been filed against Donald Trump across the country, but in terms of the criminal cases, those are the ones that I would focus on as well, and maybe I would add to that Truth Social is under criminal investigation by a grand jury in the Southern District of New York as well for potential criminal conduct. And it's also under investigation by the Securities and Exchange Commission for similar securities fraud relating to the underlying criminal conduct being investigated as well by the Department of Justice. A lot going on, but good news that Colangelo has been hired by Alvin Bragg. We'll keep you updated there with more developments, and we will keep you updated as we learn more about the jury verdict out of a Manhattan courthouse where the Trump organization is in a criminal trial, and they're a criminal defendant, and the jury is deliberating right now whether the Trump organization is guilty or not as of the time of this recording. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit the subscribe button. We are on our way to 1 million subscribers thanks to your incredible support. And in addition to hitting the subscribe button, please check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Consider becoming a patron, which is a member of the exclusive MeidasTouch community with exclusive content there. We're not funded by any outside investors at all. So wherever you are in the world, if you want to help grow this independent media platform, one way for you to help us grow is by helping us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Until next time, I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.